2024 All Section, Class AA. Jeff Joseph, Suffern. One of the most dynamic backs in the section, Joseph took his game to another level this fall. A multi-sport star, Joseph rushed for over 900 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns this season, earning all-section honors for the second time, highlighted by his 2-touchdown effort in a win over Mamaroneck. Joseph was also a standout defensively for the Mounties. Finn Mitchell, Suffern. The senior wideout was capable of making some of the most difficult circus catches throughout his career with the Mounties. This season, Mitchell became a viable option on almost every play, hauling in 45 receptions for 561 yards and 3 touchdowns. Shane Stallcup, Suffern. While the skill players on Suffern garnered most of the attention, Stallcup was as valuable as any player the Mounties have had in uniform the last 5 seasons. The veteran lineman opened up holes by punishing defenders, while being among the team leaders with 40 tackles, 7 for loss, and 4 sacks. Anthony Mack, East Ramapo. To succeed with a combined program, you need leaders like Mack, who assumed a prominent role on both sides of the ball and flourished. The senior was among the most explosive defensive players in the section, posting 63 tackles, 19 for loss, and 12.5 sacks to lead Section 1. Zion Osborne, East Ramapo. Osborne was a workhorse in all 3 phases for East Ramapo. As a runner, he piled up 937 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns, as the program won 4 games in its inaugural season. He was a stalwart on defense, posting 58 tackles, 9 for loss, and a sack and an interception. Joshua Testamark, Yonkers Force. The senior wideout was a game changer in every sense of the word. He was at his best as a downfield target, recording 32 catches for 765 yards and 5 touchdowns, highlighted by his 2 TD effort in a win over East Ramapo. He was among the area's most dangerous kick returners and was terrific on defense. Nazir Fields, Yonkers Force. Some guys are talented, and then there are players like Fields, who have the ability, but also are just fun to watch. The senior quarterback shook off injuries throughout the season to still post impressive numbers, earning MVP in the win over Yonkers Brave and passing for over 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns, while rushing for 800 yards in only 7 contests. Jaden Tuttle, Arlington. An explosive playmaker at wideout, Tuttle really came into his own this fall as a senior. He was among the section leaders with 43 receptions, which he turned into 556 yards and 5 touchdowns. Tuttle was a threat in the return game and came up with 36 tackles and 4 interceptions in the secondary. Xavier Realmuto, Arlington. One of the few returning starters from last season, Realmuto thrived in a leadership role this season for the Admirals. He led the team with 71 tackles in 10 games, thanks to his ability to always be around the ball and his unwavering physicality. Cartier Joshua, Arlington. When Joshua touched the football, look out. The senior speedster was explosive in all facets, shining as a receiver, where he posted 22 catches for nearly 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, saving some of his best plays for late in the season against rivals Carmel and RC Ketchum, where he caught 2 scores and returned a kickoff for another touchdown. Jarrell Middlebrook, Mount Vernon. Middlebrook was the man in the middle of seemingly every big play on defense, patrolling as a linebacker and leading the squad with 102 tackles and 7 sacks. Edward Ababio, Mount Vernon. After an all-conference season as a junior, Ababio returned and was among the most imposing defensive linemen in the section. He posted 59 tackles with a staggering 23 for loss, rising to the occasion with 5 TFLs in the night's win over New Rochelle, the first victory over their rival in over 20 years. King Mercer, Carmel. One of the most coveted players in the state as a recruit for the class of 2026, Mercer elevated his play this fall for the Rams. The 6'4", 265-pounder simply moved bodies on both sides of the ball. Mercer recorded 5 sacks, 10 pass breakups, 15 QB pressures, and forced 3 fumbles. As a blocker, he didn't allow a sack and had 135 pancake blocks. Brian McGrory, Carmel. McGrory took over the quarterback duties this fall for the 3-time defending Section 1 champions and put up stellar numbers despite a new group of starters all around him. The senior was a slinger, completing 67% of his passes for 2,012 yards and 24 touchdowns, guiding the Rams back to the Class AA semifinals. Thomas Connolly, Carmel. The Rams were blessed with a strong core of receivers again this fall, with Connolly assuming the role of the sure-handed, over-the-middle threat. Connolly was so good catching balls in traffic, and he finished the season with 39 receptions for almost 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. Aiden White, Carmel. One of the most exhilarating players to watch this season was White, who had the ability to put on the burners and get past the secondary. White couldn't be guarded one-on-one and showed a knack of running balls down that seemed almost uncatchable. He hauled in 38 receptions for 700 yards and 7 scores, while also recording 4 interceptions on defense. Aiden Whalen, Carmel. Carmel was a team that bullied opponents around on the field up front, and Whalen was at the center of it all. As a guard, Whalen was terrific when he got out into open space and also in pass protection, helping the Rams be one of the most prolific passing teams in the section. Defensively, he commanded constant attention and played most games in the backfield. Christian Roan, New Rochelle. The 2-time All-Section pick, Roan was a durable and reliable 300-pound monster on both sides of the ball for the Huguenots throughout his varsity career. Nuro ran almost exclusively behind Roan on offense, while opposing teams schemed to put 2 blockers on him on every play. He possessed great ability and quickness for his size and has a chance to play at the next level. Tajir Fernand, New Rochelle. The senior signal caller was a threat no matter where he lined up on the field to make a big play. He had the ability to read defenses and make quick decisions on his feet, breaking through holes and finding the end zone. New Rochelle deployed him as a runner and receiver, totaling over 800 yards of offense on the year. Nathaniel Johnson, John Jay, East Fishkill. The junior was a big play threat for the Patriots, accounting for over 700 yards of offense and 6 touchdowns. Defenses often keyed on Johnson and double-teamed him, opening up underneath throws for his teammates. Defensively, he was a true lockdown corner, allowing only 2 catches all season. Vincent Angioletti, John Jay, East Fishkill. Despite missing 2 games with an injured ankle and also limiting him to just defense for 2 more, the senior still led Jay in rushing and touchdowns scored. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry as a running back and spent the majority of the season as a slot receiver, where he averaged 14 yards per catch. As a strong safety linebacker hybrid, Angioletti had 48 tackles and an interception. Isaiah Pierre, White Plains. The junior star was the definition of versatile this season, starting at several different positions and finishing the year as the team's quarterback. Pierre accounted for 968 yards rushing, 800 passing, and 150 yards as a receiver. Raheem Adebola, RC Ketchum. Adebola, the last 3 seasons, was simply a game wrecker. A 3-year starter on both sides of the ball, he finished with 43 tackles, including 15 for loss and 5.5 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries, and scored a big man TD in a Week 5 win for the playoff-bound Ketchum Storm. Dylan Fay, RC Ketchum. Fay was a 3-year starter on defense and assumed the role of featured back this fall. he put up over 600 yards rushing, averaging 6.3 yards per attempt, and scored 6 touchdowns in Ketchum's run to the postseason. He was also a factor in the middle of the defense, posting 39 tackles with 6 for loss. Jaden Turner, R.C. Ketchum. The senior really came into his own this season, not just as a player for the Storm, but as a leader. Turner was a standout safety who made all the coverage calls in the secondary and had 39 tackles, 4 fumble recoveries, and 2 blocked kicks. As a runner, he scored 5 touchdowns on only 40 touches. Aiden Moore, Ossining. Few players entered the season with the level of hype that Moore did, and the imposing two-way lineman delivered, guiding the program to a league championship and a berth in the Class AA playoffs. A Super 11 selection and college prospect, Moore had 37 solo tackles and made opposing offenses scheme to run to the other side. Tyler Pine, Ossining. Teams learned throughout the season to just stop throwing in Pine's direction, but by then, it was far too late. The senior wideout led the section with 8 interceptions on the year, including 3 against Clarkstown South. Matt Cascione, Ossining. While teams game planned to go away from teammate Aiden Moore, they often ran right into Cascione, who was a brick wall himself in the middle of the Ossining defense. He led the team with 42 solo tackles and had 2 sacks as Ossining went 6-1 in the regular season, allowing 10 points or fewer 5 times. Kiba Sisse, Yonkers Brave. If there was one player who could and did play every position on a football field this season, it was Sisse. The senior was a dynamic playmaker, as you'll find in this section, contributing as a passer, runner, receiver, while dominating in the middle of the field on defense. On offense, he put up over 1,500 total yards. Ryan Gilligan, Scarsdale. For a second consecutive year, Gilligan led the team in tackles, rushing yards, and touchdowns after switching from offensive and defensive lines as a sophomore. He ran for just under 900 yards and 12 touchdowns, while recording 114 tackles and 3 sacks on defense. Mikey Vibert, Scarsdale. Vibert leads Scarsdale as a captain and a 3-year starter and contributor on both sides of the ball. As a linebacker, Vibert always found his way to the football and brought a level of physicality and toughness. He had 47 tackles and 3 interceptions this season to go along with over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns as a receiver. Leo Green, Scarsdale. Green makes all-section for the first season that he's ever played varsity football. It's an incredible feat for a junior lineman who quickly established himself among the elite thanks to a tireless work ethic and adaptability on both sides of the line. On defense, he had 56 tackles and 5 sacks. Colin Brennan, Scarsdale. Another two-way standout for the Raiders, Brennan has an unteachable skill, consistently being in the right place at the right time. He was a factor in all 3 phases, serving as a change of pace back, a kick returner, and a linebacker, where he posted 67 tackles and 7 sacks. Alex Krupkin, Scarsdale. Another junior standout for the Raiders, Krupkin is an impact player every time he steps on the field. He makes great contributions on offense, even when he doesn't touch the football, and had over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Defensively, he called out all of Scarsdale's adjustments and finished with 59 tackles, 4 interceptions, and a forced fumble. Henry Bone, Mamaroneck. The senior linebacker proved to be one of the toughest and most versatile players on the team this season, stepping up and making an impact wherever he needed. Bone's move from outside to middle linebacker in the playoffs solidified the Tigers' defense, and he had a remarkable penchant for making big receptions in key situations. Jack Davidson, Mamaroneck. The senior wideout was an explosive 2-year starter wide receiver, where he set school records for receptions and receiving yards. A master of the acrobatic catch, defenses game planned for him week in and week out, and he still found a way to make a huge impact on the field. Kieran Jacobson, Mamaroneck. Jacobson had a great year leading the Tigers offense. A team captain, the quarterback often carried the team on his back as both a runner and passer, combining for over 1,600 total yards and 14 touchdowns. Jacobson engineered 2 fourth-quarter comebacks to help the Tigers reach the Section 1 Class AA championship game. Will Prevost, Mamaroneck. Prevost was as clutch a kicker as there was in Section 1, with 2 walk-off game-winning field goals, most notably to beat Scarsdale in the Class AA semifinals. On the season, he connected on 8 of 10 field goals and was nearly perfect on extra points. A highly versatile player, he also lined up as an offensive and defensive lineman and played tight end for the Tigers in 2024. Mika Barry-Tuez, Mamaroneck. A 3-year starter and 2-time All-Section selection, a defensive end linebacker who caused havoc week in and week out. Teams found little traction running at him, and they required more than one man to block him on pass attempts. A fiery, intelligent player, Barry-Tuez has a host of high academic institutions currently recruiting him to play next fall. Harlan Glassman, Mamaroneck. Glassman was a 3-year starter who dominated in the trenches on both sides of the football. As an offensive lineman, Glassman was a pancake machine at the first and second levels. Both physically and mentally tough, the Tigers captain played the entire 2024 season in pain with a torn labrum and bone chips in his shoulder. Matthew Murphy, Mamaroneck. A 2-way lineman, Murphy started 30 consecutive games for the Tigers, demonstrating durability in the trenches. As an offensive tackle, he has incredible feet and can make even the most difficult blocks look easy. While at defensive tackle, he was as stout and sturdy as they come in Section 1. Ryan Jaslow, North Rockland. The Red Raiders were blessed with playmakers on defense, and Jaslow was right at the top of that list. The safety patrolled the middle of the secondary, coming up with big plays in North Rockland's biggest game. 9 tackles in a win over Scarsdale, 6 tackles in the Section 1 championship, and 12 tackles and an INT in the state quarterfinal. He also caught 4 touchdowns as a wide receiver. Javon Lawrence, North Rockland. Thanks to his commitment to play at Syracuse University, Lawrence entered the season as a marquee name, and he delivered on the field. The senior cornerback came up with 3 interceptions in the Section 1 champions season, while also serving as a playmaker as a runner and a receiver. Lawrence became the first Division I signee out of the North Rockland program in almost 2 decades. Michael Garofal-Heavner, North Rockland. The senior linebacker was a stabilizing force in the middle of the Red Raiders defense, leading the team with 107 tackles, including 10.5 for loss. He had double-digit stops in the final 3 postseason games and was stellar against Mamaroneck's running game in the Section 1 championship, leading North Rockland to its first section title since 2011. Najee Mosley, North Rockland. The speedster on the perimeter for North Rockland, Mosley was a bolt on both sides of the ball for the champs. He was a talented receiver and a rock on the outside of the defense, whether it was coming up to make stops or in coverage downfield. King St. Fleur, North Rockland. One of the few returning starters on defense, North Rockland leaned heavily all season on St. Fleur. The senior was a force at safety, recording 83 tackles and tying for the team lead with 3 interceptions, including 2 in a win over Arlington. He closed his career with 6 interceptions. Noah Kugeljack, North Rockland. The versatile junior was the breakout star of the North Rockland defense, and he carried them to a Section 1 championship. And Kugeljack was at his best when it mattered the most, dominating in that Section 1 final when he recorded 11 tackles, a sack, and blocked a punt to set up the game-winning touchdown. He finished the season with 92 tackles. William Thomas, North Rockland. The anchor of the offensive and defensive line for the Red Raiders, Thomas was the leader every championship team needs. North Rockland and Jaquan Johnson ran so often behind Thomas, who led and helped pave the way on offense, posting 306 points on the year, while being a stabilizing force on defense that posted 3 shutouts on their way to the Section 1 final. Section 1 Class AA Player of the Year, Jaquan Johnson, North Rockland. We always knew Johnson had the talent. This fall, he proved he had the heart. Johnson did it all in big games for the Red Raiders, highlighted by his final, the 2 fourth-quarter touchdown runs in the comeback win over Mamaroneck for the Section 1 championship. On the season, Johnson piled up over 1,300 yards rushing and scored 25 total touchdowns in 12 games.